Welcome to Natural Habitat Adventures, Daily Dose of Nature. Today's presentation, the Monarch Butterfly Diary, Insights from the Field, is brought to you by expedition leaders Melissa Silva and Eric Ramirez. Melissa is a marine biologist who has been guiding nature adventures in Mexico since 2012 and recently joined NatHab's team in the Central Highlands to lead monarch butterfly migration expeditions. She focused part of her studies on nudibranchs and is currently working on her master's thesis on seahorse mating behavior. Based in Puerto Vallarta, Melissa combines her marine biology expertise with a broader naturalist knowledge to share wildlife conservation through nature encounters with travelers from around the world. Eric studied marine biology in La Paz, Baja California Sur, where he spent over 2 years researching the feeding habits of several shark species and gained hands-on field experience before working in a genetics lab. He transitioned to science communication and spent 5 years as a naturalist guide, leading marine tours in the Sea of Cortez. Eric now also leads monarch butterfly expeditions in the high-altitude forests of central Mexico, combining his marine biology expert with his passion for connecting people to extraordinary wildlife migrations. We are so excited to have both of you here together on the same webinar. What a treat it is for us. Thanks for being here, you guys. Eric, take it away.
Thank you so much, Rob, for that, again, incredible presentation. And I feel very honored to have my guest, Melissa. Melissa, how are you?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm very good, very happy to be here, excited. Thank you, Rob, for the incredible presentation, introduction. And well, let's start with this, Eric. Please let
Yes,
us
of
know
course.
what we will talk about today.
Yes, because we have together and also the expedition leaders a lot of webinars about monarch butterflies, about biology, about conservation, about photography. But this time, we'll try to skip that out. And we're going to talk about our experiences as expedition leaders, things that maybe have never been told. We're going to reveal things that happened and how does it feel to be an expedition leader leading trips in the monarch butterfly sanctuaries. So of course, we're going to mention a little bit of the monarch cycle and conservation, but we're going to focus on the experiences. So Melissa, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, as Rob mentioned, I'm a marine biologist too, but working with the monarch butterfly has been something very beautiful that has filled me in very positive ways. I have to be honest, I'm always cold at the sanctuaries. You can see there, I'm all covered. You can see me right now, I'm all covered. So for me, it's like this different environment of being in the coastal tropics in Mexico and then being in these highlands of Mexico. But it's very nice because Mexico has all this diversity in biology, in ecology, in culture. So I really enjoy this trip for those reasons, the diversity and how we get to connect with our visitors and with the local communities there, and among us, like as guests, as guides, how we go together and travel there. It's very fun.
Yeah, Melissa, I couldn't say it better than that. And for me, I like to travel a lot. I'm a photographer. I'm a marine biologist, doing different things in life. I currently live in Germany. I moved 2 years ago, but now I'm in Mexico because in 3 weeks I'll start my monarch butterfly season, my fifth season. And yeah, as Melissa, I like this kind of trips because you have the opportunity to connect with people through the monarch butterflies. The monarch butterflies are very magical and they have a very spiritual energy that it's impossible to put in some words. And this is a mystery that encompasses a beautiful migration phenomenon. So we're going to start with this. Today's plans, we're going to talk very briefly about the monarch migration, conservation. We're going to talk about how is the life as an expedition leader. We're gonna share to you field stories and behind scenes experiences. And at the end, we will have a last reflection about what monarchs teach us. So Melissa, tell us about monarch migration, please.
Yes. Well, this is the thing that get us all together. We are here because of this phenomenon. So the monarch migration, in general terms, starts with the butterfly life cycle. So we have that they are little eggs. They go into the metamorphosis on a caterpillar, then a chrysalis, and then we have the flying adult, the butterfly itself. And this cycle goes over and over more or less every month. So being them insects, it depends on the temperature, on external factors, how fast they live, how fast they develop. And it usually takes between 4 to 6 weeks that they complete the whole cycle from egg to reproductive adult. So saying this, we can tell you that we have a either annual cycle or generational cycle is the diagram we have on the left side of the slide. In this circle, we can see the migration, the breeding moments, and just to put it in a very like fast way, we have the life cycle, the 1 month life cycle from March to August, more or less, giving or taking. It depends on temperature, as I mentioned. So we have 4, 5 generations between March and August, and then late August, early September, we have 1 generation that will go into a diapause, into a pausing time in their metabolism, and that's the generation, next slide, that will come down here and will stay here until more or less February, late February, mid-March. It depends once again on the temperature. So we have plenty of webinars talking about this process, talking about the biology of monarch butterflies, the migration of monarch butterflies. Here we wanted to show you this because it's what have us here. Is the reason why we are presenting for you today, is why we are coming to Mexico and why we are having this beautiful experience. So in this diagram, in the map on the right of the slide, you have all the generations that are going north, distributing on the northeast, northwest of the US. We have 2 different populations, but you have another webinar about that. And then they all come at once in the 4th or 5th generation, and they arrive to Mexico. Why they have this movement, north and south? Because they are following the food. When they are butterflies, when they are adult flying butterflies, they can feed on pretty much any flower. They are generalists. They feed on nectar of flowers. You name it, probably that flower they are feeding off. But when they are babies, when they are caterpillars, they are specialists. They have to eat mandatory only milkweed leaves. So the milkweed has this cycle also in which when the temperatures are going lower, when winter is coming, they go in a dormant state, naturally in the wild the life. They go in a dormant state, and then there is no food available for the caterpillars. What happens there, together with other factors such as less light during the day or colder temperatures, the monarchs on that generation, that is called the 4th or 5th generation, something snaps inside them, something changes in their metabolisms, they don't mate, and they start to congregate to come down here, next slide, to come here to the forest in central Mexico. These forests are in a mountain range. You can see on the photo here, all the mountains or the wrinkles on the land. This mountain range is called the Trans-Volcanic Belt or Trans-Mexican Volcanic Belt. As you can see, it's transversal to the country. And here we have some of the highest peaks in Mexico, if not the highest peaks of Mexico. Most of them are volcanic, of volcanic origin. And in here we have some specific forests, some specific populations of what we call the Oyamel fir. This fir, is the scientific name is Avis religiosa. Coincidentally, it is in the same environment, the same microclimate on these high mountains that the monarch butterfly likes when they come to Mexico. So it happened just that the tree, this specific species is there, and the monarch butterfly comes to that exact the same spot. Some people say like, well, they are feeding on the tree, or the scent, the smell of the tree is attracting the butterflies. We have no certainty on those theories. What we or what the scientifics have researched, and maybe leads a little bit on the preference of this type of tree, not only the species but the type, the first, is that the little needles that they have are perfect for the tiny legs of the monarch butterfly to attach to them, and then they can get closer together. They packed a little bit more compact in the clusters, so they get more protection. So that's a hypothesis that is still under proof, but well, that's why they come on this area. And there is a significant in terms of culture and beliefs of the monarch butterfly. Since pre-Hispanic times, the native Mexicans, not only the Aztecs, the Mexicas, but all other cultures in the central part of Mexico, had the belief that when a warrior died in battle, or when a mother died in childbirth, they became, or they were reborn or reincarnated in butterflies. So coincidentally, once again, the migration ends when they arrive to Mexico on Day of the Dead, November the 1st, the 2nd. This year, for example, the first monarchs that were registered arriving to the sanctuaries arrived here on November the 3rd, and that is El Día de Todos los Santos, the Day of the Saints, or Day of the Dead, the official one. So it's a very special coincidence. And well, now in pop culture, now we say that they are las almas de los muertos, the soul of the departed.
That was a great explanation, Melissa. Thank you so much. In regarding to the conservation, we understand that right now there are many current threats to the monarch populations. And first of all, climate change. And we understand that climate change is affecting almost every single creature, because altering the natural metabolism cycle, adding more temperature, creating different conditions, it's just affecting population level. And also habitat loss. We know that the prayers that we have had, the forests that we have had, are not the same. The humans, we have altered our environment in order to make more suitable places. And in terms of our culture, we have just removed a lot of prairies, a lot of resources of food, which also is affecting the monarch butterflies, because they are constricting the populations of the monarchs into small patches, okay? And of course, one of the most common thing that is affecting not only the monarch butterflies, also many types of pollinators are pesticides and herbicides. In like a long time ago, we thought that pesticides were the solution for many of our problems, but nowadays we know that they are creating more problems than solutions. So what sanctuaries and local communities are doing in Mexico, first of all, forest protection and reforestation. There's a lot of communication between local communities and, for example, private organizations and public organizations like Monarch Butterfly Fund, or Forest for Monarchs, or WWF Alliance with Telcel, a telecommunication company in Mexico, which are providing a lot of saplings to the local, so the local communities can reforest these areas, and also they can patrol the areas to avoid illegal logging. Sustainable economic models. Sanctuaries create seasonal employment for local families. Let's just say guides, horse handlers, people who are working in the ticket entrance, and conservation staff. They're all working together in order to build up a place where they can get profit out of the monarch butterflies. Scientific monitoring and citizen science, of course, that tagging programs and migration tracking help scientists understand population threats. local universities in Mexico, also universities from US, from the US and Canada are working together in order to get as much um, information as possible in order to complement and to complete, sorry, all this gigantic puzzle that the monarchs are offering. Environmental education, many centers work with schools to teach conservation values to children in the surrounding communities. And this is something that happens very often, especially when we visit the colonies. Sometimes we see kids around, but we're going to talk about this later. What is the role of expedition guides in sustainable tourism? First of all, we interpret nature responsibly. More than educate, our role is to share the visitors about monarch butterfly biology and conservation challenges. Teaching respectful behavior around roosting areas is primordial. I mean, if we are there, we try to avoid make a lot of loud sounds. We don't use flashes in case we're going to take pictures. We keep our distance. Also, we convey people how to protect sensitive areas, ensuring that visitors can stick to the marked trails to prevent soil erosion and habitat damage. Also, these places try to reduce the group size in order to have a better experience and to create less audition contamination, let's say. We also try to support local communities. In Natca, for example, we hired local guides, horse handlers, and transport services. We encourage also our visitors to buy local made products and support community business. And the pinnacle of all this is promoting leave no trash principles. We need to respect wildlife, pack our waste, and avoid stepping on vegetation. We encourage our guests dramatically to use reusable water bottles and to reduce single-use plastics, which are nowadays everywhere. So, checking life as an expedition leader, I stole this picture from our welcome dinner presentation because these are primarily the most common scenarios that we might see once we got to the monarch butterfly colonies. So on the left side, we have a sunny day where the monarchs are very warm, sorry, monarchs are very active. It's sunny. And of course, that when people watch videos, they think immediately that they want to have this experience. I understand that this is beautiful, but also this is actually not, let's say, not the best for the monarch butterflies because they came here to really get some rest. So on the right side, we have a cloudy day, which is a day where the monarchs are resting. They're not pretty active, but one is not better than the other one. They're just different, and we will enjoy these two scenarios as better as possible. So, Melissa, could you tell us what is like tell us about the logistics? Because apparently, guests they have the picture that everything as soon as they arrive, everything is like ready for them, but it takes a lot of effort, right?
Yes. Yeah, it's the preparation of these trips starts, I mean, from the very moment that you call not have and the people in sail department and flying department, they get in contact with you, and that can be even 1 year before you come to Mexico, or even 2 years before you come to Mexico, that they start with the booking process and everything. But specifically in terms of the expedition leaders and the trip and the season that we are working with, we start preparing the tours at least 1 month before. This season, for example, we started since we had some trips in December. We started on the last week of October, more or less. We started preparing all the gear, checking the supplies, checking the first aid kit, that everything is like usable for the season. And this season, I had the chance to go with these girls from the field operations staff, Clara and Claudia. And what they do every season, the field staff, is going on a scouting trip. And during this scouting trip, what they do is check the sanctuaries, check the road conditions, let know the local communities that we are going there and that they are ready for us. So it was a very nice moment to share with them, because the people on the places to prepare all these trips, they already know what we are doing, and they are just like very excited, very happy to have us there. They are very welcoming. So speaking of local communities, I would like to share the story behind this, just linking a little bit with what you mentioned about sustainable tourism. You really need to have the local communities involved because they are a very important part of protection of these places. This photo specifically shows a family posing for one of our visitors, and the story of the family, how they changed their way of living in order to protect the sanctuary and to educate the people visiting is very nice, because the father used to log from the forest that is around the colonies, because they needed the wood for cooking, or they needed the wood for building their homes. Eventually they realized that they needed to protect the forest, that they needed to work in order to have the visitors coming here. The next slide, please. And what they do now is that they are working in the tourism industry, in ecotourism, or in the handcrafts. Here, for example, we have Mr. Diego in the Central Park. He's one of our drivers for almost 3 decades now, almost 30 years. And well, he's always willing to put up something special for us, or to help us in any way that he can do. Mrs. Maria on the left, Mrs. Juanita on the right, these are local ladies. One of them is a local guide for the sanctuaries. The other one, you can see, is an artisan. They are all working together with us to make like this trip the best experience that we can have. The housekeepers, the people in the kitchens, they are always working for our ¿cómo se dice? Sanity or health, hygienically on kitchens, very safe protocols on every step of the way, and more than anything, like making everything happen for us as guides to work the best possible with the visitors, with our guests.
Of course, Melissa, and sorry for the interruption, but I need to highlight that most of the time when we finish a trip, our guests, they said, oh, thanks to our expedition leaders, it was fantastic because they made it possible. But I like to interrupt them to tell them, yes, I know that we are the cover of the book, but there's a tremendous work behind the scenes. And everything started from the office, people booking the trips, people booking the insurance, the flights, and everything. And once we arrived to Mexico, we have a huge group of people working all at once, like in a very coordinated orchestra, making this trip possible. So we also need to thank them, because without them, these trips couldn't be possible. So about seasonal rhythms, peak days and quiet days and surprises, as I mentioned it before, NatHab has trying effortlessly to deliver to our guests the most incredible, exclusive, sustainable, and intimate relationship with, in this case, with the monarch butterflies. We tried also to go during the weekdays where there are not so many tourists, but we understand that sometimes we need to go on Fridays, for example. On Fridays, sometimes we do have school trips. So far to be an impediment to enjoy our experience with the monarchs, is actually really fantastic to see how the kids are really intrigued with the equipment that we bring in, because we have a spotting scope to see closely the clusters, and they're like, what is that? They ask you questions, and sometimes they also want to practice their English with our guests. So I see like a fusion of different cultures all merged up under the monarch butterfly colonies. And that's precisely what is all about, you know, the combination, the gather of nice people who come here or will come there to just enjoy and be witness of this incredible and majestic phenomenon in nature. So of course that as guides, we want to bring the best out of the best. We want to offer the best trips ever, but sometimes we have unexpected challenges like weather, trail conditions, and etc. We can control almost everything, but the only thing that it's impossible to be controlled is weather, especially up there. So sometimes, for example, we had scenarios where it's hazing, in the sanctuaries. Or for example, with Hugo, another expedition leader, once we reached the colonies, it started to rain with some lightning, and we said, to be honest, we consider that this is not safe, and we need to head down because we don't know if it's going to rain a lot, and if it rains a lot of, if it rains in a heavy storm, it's going to get really unsafe for our guests. So we need to highlight and put a lot of emphasis that for us, the most important thing in our trips is not to see the monarch butterflies. It's to keep the group safe. That's the most important. Of course, that the enjoyment of the monarch butterfly comes in a second place. So if we consider that it's not, the environment is not getting safe, we will start to move to a different protocols, of course. So this could be linked to safety, but it's more like when the monarchs arrived to the colonies, unfortunately, they didn't get the memo that they're supposed to arrive to the same place and as close as the entrance as possible. So the monarchs select the most suitable place to overwinter, but this place is dynamic. They're moving towards different locations in the same area. But for us, for example, we have to also walk sometimes a little bit more. Sometimes it gets really steep up. Sometimes it gets a little bit steep down. Sometimes maybe we have to use the horses a little bit more. Sometimes we have like 5 minutes. Sometimes we have 30 minutes. But it all depends on the monarchs. Melissa, tell us what happened here.
Yeah, we were just practicing for the new Silent Hill movie. This was the
From
scenario.
Mexico.
Yeah. No, just linking it a little bit on what's like to have bad weather, just air quoting because it's not bad weather, it's just weather. This was a day that we were having lunch in town in a lower altitude, and it was not a cloudy day. We had pretty much like sunny, some clouds here and there, and then it started to be very windy. The forecast predicted partially cloudy, but the top of the mountain is a completely different environment from the bottom of the mountain. So when we started going up, we realized that there was this heavy fog all around the place, and pretty much in front of us in this photo, we have the mountain and we have the colonies in somewhere up there. So we were, Patty and I, we were leading the trip, and we were like, oops, what should we do? I mean, it's closed, like we don't see very much. It was windy, it was changing very fast. And at the end, we decided to keep going because we didn't see any danger, any risk to the safety of the group. And at the end of that day, we had a fantastic experience because pretty much it was like an enchanted forest, like a fairy forest with all this fog, with the clusters hanging from the branches. And due to the conditions, the local guides allowed the people visiting to be closer to the clusters. So we were able to be closer than usual, and people was just delighted by that. And so that's what we were saying, like safety first. If we see that the weather is not on the best conditions, we will try to manage it, but at the end, we will do the best for the safety. Always keep in mind that. And there's another example here. The same, a trip that we were planning very well. Some forecasts saying it might be cloudy, chances of rain, and turns out the rain became hail, or I don't remember if it was hail or sleet, but it was a very dangerous situation for us to go up on the mountains. So we had to rearrange the itinerary and change that visiting the sanctuaries day for a baking class day in a local restaurant. So we actually went down in altitude, went lower on the altitude. We had this baking, cooking class in a restaurant where we had lunch. And then the next day, we came back to the sanctuaries and we have a very nice experience. So all of this, linking with what we are talking here, all of this process of preparing the trips, of the plan A, B, C, X, Y, Z, all the behind the scenes work, behind the scene experiences is what we have for you to enjoy the best trip that we can provide.
Of course, Melissa, you're completely right, and we always have a plan in case something like this happen, of course. And so we're gonna share to you the field stories and behind the scenes experiences. We understand that the main goal for all of us is to see the monarch butterflies. That's not in a doubt. But in this section of the presentation, what we want to tell you is some of these things as expedition leaders that might not have the same attention to many of our guests, but for us, they make such a big difference because details matter. And of course, as being in monarch butterfly guides, we have seen the monarch several times. So every time we have something different, we try to stop, point it out, and to tell our guests this is different. So, Melissa, what happened here? Tell us.
Well, on this, the story behind this photo is that we were up there in the sanctuary, just like checking the clusters, and then we saw this man here, Mr. Angel, from the local community of Hangangeo, coming out of the forest with that stuff, carrying that thing, and we were all like curious about like what are you doing there? And well, long story short, this is a radio receiver, as you can read there, from the Michigan University. In 2020, they started a project with radio transmitters like microchips attached to the monarch butterflies. They were working with it for a couple of years. I think the last leg of that experiment was in 2023. And this is one of those radio receivers that they were setting up in the colonies around the monarch area to catch the transmissions of these little chips. If you check the New York Times, some of the latest news, they are doing the same now with other companies, with other universities and organizations. So this is like different branches on the same research. But this was very special for the group, and for me, I consider it's a very special thing to see because it's the citizen science in work and the local communities involved in these conservation projects.
Of course.
See? And the next one, this one has also a very special story behind because NatHab has a Monarch Butterfly Scholarship Grant, as you can read there, and they provide this grant to any environmental educator. So if you go online and check this, like the ¿cómo se llama? All the things that you need to to apply for the grant, all the requirements. It's something very beautiful because once again, we are supporting citizen science, we are supporting science communication, conservation projects. So for me, it was very, very important. That's one of the first teachers to get the grant, the scholarship grant. That's Mark over there from, I think it's marketing, with the interview. And well, that was the very first one, and I was like, super excited to be in that trip. And we are continuing. We continue with that. NatHab is still providing the grants on that. These two photos are very, very significant for me because they provide like this contrast on the view of our guests. So travelers come to Mexico. Sometimes they have a preconceived idea of what Mexico is. I always make fun in my webinars that Mexico doesn't have a yellow filter on all the time. So that's a Hollywood thing. Mexico has all these contrasting topics in terms of culture, in terms of languages, for example. And here specifically on the photo on the left side of the slide with these two ladies, Olivia, the cook, and Jenny, our visitor. Jennifer had the idea of, one of her goals was to make a tortilla from scratch. She wanted to make a corn tortilla and like get her hands dirty. We were unable to do like the whole process of nixtamalization and milling the corn, but Olivia helped her to do the tortillas by hand, and pretty much that was like a goal for her. We were able to mark that, to check that on her list. So that's, if you notice, that's like something very traditional, something that we really associate to Mexican culture, the tortilla, the corn. And then on the other hand, the photo on the right side of the slide, we see all these buildings there. When the lady, Charlotte, that took this photo, showed it to us, I was wondering, like, why would you take a photo of buildings, right? Like, you have buildings at home too, like any city has buildings. And she said, like, well, this is very contrasting because you took us to this little town, Angangueo, in the Han Mountains, that is a very traditional town, very folkloric, with the little cobblestone streets. And then we come to Mexico and we see these huge buildings with these complexes, areas that are very modern. So you have the contrast of the modern Mexico and the traditional Mexico, and that was something very special for me because, I mean, I live in Mexico. Sometimes I get blind and I don't realize, I don't see the Mexico culture or Mexico in general through the eyes of our guests. So noticing this and that she explained that to me was like, that's very interesting. So that's why I wanted to show you those photos.
Yeah, Melissa, you're right. There's a lot of Mexicos in one single Mexico, right? A lot of
Yes.
contrasts. And now talking about memorable emotional highlights, we with the Monarchs, our guest Sam, a very avid and really good photographer. He was always willing to take pictures of everything. He's really good, actually. When we were in the sanctuaries, as you can see behind him, there's a rope, which is delimiting where you can get to the monarch butterfly colonies. So above that we cannot cross, of course. Beyond that we cannot cross. But he noticed in one of the pictures that in the cluster there was something shiny, and I said, I don't know, let me check. And we realized that there was a tag on a monarch butterfly. Just to let you know, the tagging program is still ongoing since probably 30 or more than 30 years ago, and they tag many, like, I don't have the number right now, but many monarchs. So the chances to get a tag are very low, especially because most of the tags are recovered from the below the colonies, below the clusters with the dead monarch butterflies. So the chances to see one are very low. Unfortunately, the camera equipment couldn't make it better in order to see and read the information. But just to tell this to the whole group, they were so excited that they were witness of one of these tags. Was pretty awesome. So during the welcome June presentation, we like to tell people that as humans, we understand that we don't enjoy the things in the same way. We have different backgrounds, we have different culture, we have different experiences. So for some people, just having a quiet moment next to a horse makes such a big difference. Some people, for example, they have searching for a peace closing, especially if they have lost someone very recently. And I love how they, in their way of seeking a peace, they find monarch butterflies. And I think again, if we linked the monarch butterflies with the arrival with the Day of the Dead, their arrivals have a lot of meaning. And talking about this, people think in the community that if a monarch butterfly lands upon you, that means that that's the soul of someone who passed away. So when that happens, which is not very frequent, people, they just like break in tears and they are very grateful. It happens to me a couple of times, and sometimes I just like check the sky and I say thank you, grandmother, grandfather, like whoever is coming to say hi. I feel like really happy that that happened to me, and of course our guests are thrilled with this experience. And linking this, we try also not to just go there to see the monarchs and they come back to the hotel. What we like to do also is try to settle all these feelings down, creating a mindfulness moment. In this case, for example, what we like to do is to conduct a quiet and brief meditation session where we can actually absorb where we are. So one of the biggest problems nowadays is that we are not fully present in the present, unfortunately, because we're thinking about many things at the same time. So once we are here, we try to like settle the guest into the experience. And at the end of the meditation session, a lot of people feel really connected, really happy. And this only happens with monarch butterflies, in my experience, of course. So, this is also the result of being together for 5 or 6 days. So I like to see the faces of our guests in our welcome dinner presentation because naturally, as human beings, we try to establish a non-physical barrier once we meet someone completely unknown. We don't open ourselves most of the time. The majority of people, they don't do this. So you can see throughout or along the tour how people are sharing more experiences. They're sharing more information. They are getting along. They are chatting. They are talking, and little by little they're having more and more feeling like I'm safe. I shouldn't be worried about anything. So this actually was a trip of us, a trip from ours. We had an amazing group, and at the farewell dinner, people started to share a lot of personal things. And it became really touchy, really inspiring, and something that I don't do very often, to be honest. I was just given my favorite part of the trip. And I said something and I started to cry. And these incredible ladies, they just hugged me and everybody was crying on the table. And it was actually so beautiful that we were not ashamed to share our feelings. And that was
Yes,
just really incredible.
very
No?
emotional. I
Yeah.
remember that, Eric, sorry to interrupt you, that at
Yes.
the beginning of that trip on the welcome dinner, you saw like the couples like with their partners, like partner with partner, and
Yes.
then this the two sisters. Remember the two
Yes.
sisters together, and then at the end you see one partner here, the other there, like all the
That was
group
scattered.
mixed
Yeah.
all together. And if I remember correctly, they exchange their phones and their addresses, and some of them are still like in touch, planning their trips together,
Yeah.
because this
Amazing.
bond that they created was something very, very deep, very special.
Yeah.
I remember
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. That's pretty awesome. And also something I like to say in a welcome dinner presentation is take a look of the person who's sitting next to you. Because you don't know if that person is going to be your travel companion for the next years. You don't know if we'll see you again. So maybe, we don't know. And something, it does happen. So also we have unique wildlife encounters. It's not only about monarchs, but I like birds. And for example, on the right side, we have a endemic white-cheeked red warbler, which is pretty unique. I mean, you might think like, yeah, it's easy to spot because it's just red. Yeah, because but it is not actually. In my experience, I've seen this bird only twice. It's very complicated to see. Some of the birders, they have a lot of incredible encounters, and some of them they said, I saw it yesterday, and I was like, nah, I didn't have a lot of luck. And then on the left hand, we see the black-headed grosbeak. So just to let you know, in the sanctuaries, there are three different species which predate upon the monarch butterfly: the black-headed grosbeak, the black-backed oriole, and the black-eared mouse. So, for example, it is more likely to see them hunting monarch butterflies during cloudy days because the monarchs are not active; they are in the clusters, and they leverage this opportunity to jump over the branches feeding upon monarchs. I was actually a picture that I took last year, and people were so thrilled, and I was like, wow, like this is just amazing. And then Melissa, what do we have
Yeah.
here?
See, a lot of people is looking up all the time for the monarchs, of course, because that's the kind of like the goal of in terms of wildlife to come here. Then we have the birds, but then if you pay attention to your level or below, you will find also a lot of stuff. I always like to tell the people, like, just look for the details, keep an eye on the details. We find a lot of little plants that are very, very pretty. Some are medicinal, uh, and these two photos, for example, are from these two insects that are very special. The photo on the right side of the slide is the princely tiger moth, and this moth has a very limited distribution in southern, central and southern Mexico and northern area of Central America, like Guatemala, Belize. And we don't really see it very often. So when we see the moth, it's pretty much like a treat for us because I mean, you can see the metallic colors of it, and it's usually feeding on the little flowers on the side of the road that we are hiking on the trail. And then the photo on the left, it was very funny because when I was just checking on the butterflies, actually with the scope, I felt something on my hand, and when I saw it at very first moment, I thought it was a wasp or a bee, and I was like, no, 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 just go away, please, don't sting me. And when I took a closer look, I saw it had a proboscis like a fly. And then just doing some research, nerdy, it is a hoverfly, and I had never ever seen one of those in my life. So just paying attention to those little details also enriches the trip, and what gives you like another topic to talk to your friends when you come back. So it's important for me. It's important to share that with our guests when we are in the trip. That will just keep your eyes open behind or beyond the butterflies. There are more things to see. Even the forest itself is also very beautiful and unique.
Of course, Melissa, you're right. And friends, what I want to share this is just we're about to finish the presentation. Um, the Monarch Butterfly gathers a lot of people, incredible guests, but also it gathers a lot of weird, crazy nature lovers like us, expedition leaders. Most of us, we live in different states, also in different countries, and we might gather only once in the year to gather monarch butterflies. But more than just colleagues, I think, speaking for myself and also from you, Melissa, we consider ourselves as friends. Friends who might see only once in a year, or maybe we will visit us in our hometowns. But it's just fantastic how we have an amazing group of people who work in nature, uh, nature lovers, people who are always willing to share moments, to also like to hang out when we are not guiding in Mexico City. So yes, we have a very solid and incredible group. And just to finish this presentation, Melissa, I want to ask you what monarchs teach us.
Well, in a personal view, from my perspective, it teaches the monarch teaches uh, that everything is changing. Everything is change, and we need to adapt to the change, and we need to overcome overcome the change. The monarchs do it by migrating. They when their weather is changing, there's no food, the conditions get very rough for them. They just move. They move on. They migrate and wait for better times to keep going with their lives. So I really like that idea of um, just taking the things as they come and look for the best. Always to have a like a positive point of view, looking for the best of every situation. And at the end, also what I like is what you mentioned, that they all come together here from different parts of the North America region, all together. They come here at once.
Yes,
So it's also like a reflection or like a example of unity. At the end,
yes,
they are one, even if they come
yeah,
from different areas.
you're right, Melissa. So for me, I'm thrilled with the idea that a very small, a very small, simple organism, not less evolved, more simple organism, have the ability to be resilient, to be determined, and to have a lot of strength to perform this migration from the north to Mexico. I mean, this is just a lesson that teaches that we must be very brave in our daily basis. Because if they can perform this, us with a lot of abilities, a lot of resources, I mean, we can do everything if we want. And one of our roles in the whole ecosystem is to protect these animals who are very fragile. Animals who migrate are very fragile organisms because if they arrive to the places where they're supposed to spend the winter in this case, and the places they not fulfill their needs, the next year they will experience some problems. So thanks the monarchs, thanks to you. It was a pleasure to have an expert like Melissa in my presentation. So friends, if you have any questions, just let us know. For us, it was a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Eric and Melissa, thank you. What a treat. So I would like to tell everyone, if you do have questions, you can submit them via the question field in your control panel. Just go to the upper right-hand corner. You got those 3 lines there. You click on those, and the question field will open up, and you can put them in there. We don't really have a lot of questions since you guys were just so entertaining and thorough. Nobody could move their fingers across a keyboard. So we appreciate you talking about this. We'll just give them another minute just in case somebody pops in. But do you guys have any other? Oh wait, we've got one. Are there any books you would recommend to read before coming on the trip, or any research we should do?
Let me bring them, Eric, but you can
Yes,
speak.
yes. No, come on.
What do you think, Eric? She's going to go get a book to show us.
Okay. In my experience, for example, if you want to go over really like good science, but pretty much understandable, you can go to Monarch Joint Venture. This NGO, for example, gathers a lot of information through the year, and they just like build small paragraphs about the research, and this pretty solid information, like current information about the monarch butterflies. That's what I would say. Also, there's a book, unfortunately, I don't know if this book is in English. I saw it in Spanish, but it basically tells you everything about the monarchs, and it was made by WWF Mexico and Telcel. I will look if it's translated in English, but it's a great resource. Also, for example, if you when you travel with NatHab, you have we give you the pre-departure briefing with a lot of information also, and there are a lot of links and resources where you can consult if you want to know more about the monarch butterflies. Melissa, do you have books?
I found, yeah, the ones that I've heard that, I like them a lot also. This was, can you see it? I don't know if you can see it. 4 Wings and a Prayer.
Yeah.
Oh, 4 Wings and a Prayer from Sue Halpern. And it's a very touching one. It's a mix of science and like a memoir and a little bit of like personal thoughts from the author. Then there is Bicycle with Butterflies, also from Sarah Dagman. And this is a journey. She actually was on a bicycle following the route southwards to, northward to from the sanctuaries to the border Canada-US. So these 2 are the ones that you can have not completely or fully scientific. And I think the book, the magazine you were mentioning is Migración Monarca.
Exactly, Migración Monarca. But I'm not sure if it's that.
Carlos Galindo. Yes. I think it's only in Spanish.
In Spanish,
but, but it has like all the information you might need in the scientific side of the monarchs. But those would be like the 3 ones I would recommend, plus the websites you already mentioned.
Yeah.
Great. Good to know. Thank you so much. So is it true, one of our guests have read that there might have been more monarchs that have migrated to Mexico than usual? Is that this year? Is that true?
I think Melissa can answer that question because Melissa was there, and it was December, Melissa?
No, yeah, November.
Okay. Did you want to really answer that question, or just say like, maybe if you travel with NatHab, you will see it? No, just kidding. Yeah.
No,
go ahead.
Travel with NatHab and you will see with your eyes. But I will tell you, I did see more than previous years. I don't know how many in amount, like 100% more. I don't know, but what I saw, and it was mid-November, that the clusters, the colonies are not fully set or fully compact, and you were able to see the difference from previous years. I notice more abundance, biomass
Yeah,
in this season. So
that's
hopefully
really good
when
news.
the official numbers come out in February or March, we have good news. It
Yeah,
all points out to that result.
yeah.
Great, thank you for that answer. One of our guests is asking, they understand that we can't get all that close and that there may even be some roped off areas, but will we be able to get close enough to really see the butterflies?
Yes, and also it all depends on, for example, because sometimes, for example, the monarch colonies are moving from one day to another. So the job of the local guides is to also extend or contract the rope limitation. So it all depends. For example, if the monarchs are in a very steep downhill, because it happens also in other years that the colonies, they were in a very steep down place, and we said like, okay, we cannot get closer. But sometimes it happens, and I think in the majority of the cases we are pretty close to the colonies. We are not like 500 meters away that you can just see like very tiny points. Of course that they won't let us get inside of the colony, but it all depends of the arrangement of that year, right, Melissa?
Yes, and the other thing is we have the rules and we have to follow the rules, but the monarchs don't necessarily follow the rules. So
They don't
sometimes
care.
they when they are active because it's a sunny day, or when they are moving from one area to another, they are flying around, and as you saw, they get very close, or they are just sunbathing on one side of the road, and they are like very close to the humans, to the
Intimidates.
visitors.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, we get to see them very close, but it all depends on the conditions of in terms of temperature, weather, and the ¿cómo se dice? The terrain conditions, how far
Of
they
course.
are set.
Gotcha, thank you. So if I don't have a really expensive camera, do you think I'll still get some good photos?
Of course.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Go
Yeah.
back to the little insects, to the moth and the fly. I
Yes, of
took
course.
those photos with my cell phone. It's a
Yeah.
regular smartphone. So you can see there are some settings. Actually, when you go on the trip, your expedition leader will assist you on taking photos with the device that you have. So
Yeah.
if you have like a very professional camera, we recommend you to take a photo tour that's
Exactly.
specific for big cameras and for people that is more passionate and even semi-professional. But for regular mortals like me, with a phone or with any other type of camera, you can have stunning photos, and you can always seek the assistance of the expedition leader. So there are some features that we can help you to set and get some very good photos.
Yeah, especially for example, even in non photo exploration trips, sometimes we have people who are very they're willing to take nice pictures with the cameras, and sometimes they say, okay, I have this camera, but I don't know how to, like as Melissa said before, set the proper settings in a right way. We can assist you, of course, and this will be a game changer in order to have really good pictures. Yeah.
So if I do have a good camera, do you recommend a type of lens that I should bring that would be best for taking monarch pictures?
Good question. So in our photo expedition trips, in my experience, for example, I like to bring a lens, a 25, 78, or 28, 100, 101, 105, sorry. But also I like to encourage people to bring a telephoto. A telephoto could be like 70 to 200. That's good. If you want to also have a little bit more extension, you can bring extender. But if you have like a big lens, super telephoto like 200, 600, this works perfect. Especially if you want to have a closer look into the clusters, that's fantastic.
Great, thank you for that.
Yeah.
So if I'm traveling there in January and February, will most of the monarchs still be there? Am I still going to see monarchs?
Melissa, answer the question.
Yes, yeah. The season, the regular season goes from mid-November to mid-March. So January, February is in the middle of the season. The conditions of the weather changes, so they might be active, they might not. They might move from one point to another, from one day to another. So there are like things changing locally, but in January and February, 80% of the time, well, no, 90% of the time, we see the monarch butterflies. There have been exceptional years with crazy weather, thanks climate change, that we have missed the butterflies late February, February, but it has been exceptional, and it's been years since that happened. So yeah, just short answer, yes, you will see them in January and February.
Totally
All
agree
right.
with your answer. Yes.
Thank you, guys. Well, unfortunately, that will be the last question that we do have time for today. So I'd like to throw it back to you guys for some closing comments.
Millie, you want to say something?
Well, no, thank you so much. Just to repeat again, I was very happy that you invited me for this webinar. Very happy to share these stories that we don't usually share in other webinars or in the trips. And well, I hope everyone enjoy our stories, behind the scenes stories. Thank you, Eric. Pleasure always.
You're welcome. It's always nice to have you here in our presentations. And I'm just going to tell you that if you want to know more about this, check in our webpage. There's a lot of information. Check the webinars, and of course, travel with us, because there's one thing that we can tell you today of these expeditions, but there's another one if you decide to come to really experience by firsthand. So we hope to that some of you might join us to the next expeditions, and yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Melissa, Eric, thank you both so much for joining us today. What a pleasure for me and for everybody else. It's great to see you guys. And so if you guys are interested in information on how you can travel to see monarchs with NatHab, please give us a call at 800-543-8917, or you can send us an email at info@nathab.com. Our adventure specialists are happy to help you out. Join us tomorrow for our next Daily Dose of Nature. You can check out this week's lineup, including registration links, on our website at nathab.com/webinars. We did record today's presentation, and the replay will be available on our website soon. With that, I conclude the webinar. So long, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.